War. War never changes. In the year 1945, my great-great-grandfather, serving in the army, wondered when he'd get to go home to his wife and the son he'd never seen. He got his wish when the US ended World War II by dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The world awaited Armageddon. Instead, something miraculous happened. We began to use atomic energy, not as a weapon, but as a nearly limitless source of power. People enjoyed luxuries, once thought the realm of science fiction. But then, in the 21st century, people awoke from the American dream. Years of consumption led to shortages of every major resource. The entire world unraveled. We now stand on the brink of total war, and I'm afraid, for myself, for my wife, for my infant son. Because if my time in the army told me one thing, it's that war never changes.
What's going on, guys and gals? Welcome to another Fallout 4 update video with me, the Lone Vault Wanderer. You know, I never actually thought I'd get to make another video concerning Fallout 4 rumors and leaks so quickly, but it seems that in the past day, a major gaming website, Kotaku, has obtained some important casting call documents, allegedly of which are sourced directly from Fallout 4's development. Now, the clip that you saw at the start of this video was one that I made by reading one of those scripts that Kotaku has obtained. Now, you can see that script on the screen right now, but if you can't see it or read it, I put a link in the description below so you can have a look for yourself. But before I got into the specifics of the script, I actually wanted to go through the Kotaku article to discern the main points from it, and then we can talk about the scripts and see what they're trying to represent. Now, the article starts by saying that Fallout 4 is in development right now, it's real, and it's apparently as rumored to be set in Boston, according to these particular casting call documents. Now, what it's referring to there, if you remember ages ago, this was probably the first bit of news that we got with regards to Fallout 4. There was this MIT student that said that Bethesda representatives were at the school, they were in the Boston area, and they were scouting potential locations for Fallout 4. Now, this is where things are striking me as odd, because those MIT scouting rumors were actually revealed to be fake. The guy said, which he posted on Reddit, he said that it was just fake, he wanted to rile everyone up. So the fact that these, casting call documents seemingly coincide and are consistent with those MIT scouting rumors seems to put me on notice. I don't think that, if those rumors were, revealed to be fake, why should we believe these casting call documents if they're referring to the exact same setting in the form of Boston? Bearing in mind that the Survivor website, heavily implemented Boston and the Massachusetts area in that, alternate storyline that he tried to produce. The fact that these casting call documents are referring Boston as well seems to suggest to me that they're not legitimate, because those rumors were, knocked down numerous times in the past. That setting, in particular, Boston and Massachusetts, has been knocked down so many times in the past. Why should we believe that these casting call documents referring to Boston are legitimate in any way? But I want to give this article the benefit of the doubt because it is exciting news, and I'm trying not to get overexcited after all of the, hoaxes that we've had in the form of the Tumblr page and the Survivor site. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'll keep reading the article. So he says that a Kotaku reader sent him several documents from a casting call for a project codenamed Institute. Now, obviously that's referring to that group, the Institute, which I referred to numerous times in my Survivor videos. The whole Institute, the Commonwealth, and the androids, and that whole kind of section which was slightly mentioned in Fallout 3. You remember with Dr. Zimmerman saying, I'm from the Institute, the Commonwealth, and we made, androids, and I've lost an android, can you help me? That's what it's kind of referring to, because the article does say that Fallout, like the word Fallout itself, was never mentioned anywhere in these casting call documents, which would make sense. If this was meant to be a secret project, you wouldn't give the name of the project right there on the paper so everyone can read it and be like, oh yeah, I'm doing work for this, game called Fallout. People would kind of get sus about that, be like, oh, well, Fallout 4's in development. But by saying that it's the Institute, it kind of hides it in a bit of secrecy a little bit. Not many people will know what they're talking about. But if you go to hardcore fans like us, we know exactly what the Institute is referring to. It's referring to that group in the Commonwealth that resides at MIT, or the Institute now. So I'll continue with this article anyways. So apparently, right, there are several references in these casting call documents to Fallout's settings and locations. The casting director for this project also worked on other Bethesda games, like Dishonored and Skyrim. Now, in 2012, and this is what I referred to before, the rumors circulated that Bethesda employees were scouting the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, in Boston for an upcoming Fallout game, but those rumors were revealed to be fake. So why should we believe these casting call documents again if the same setting is being brought up? But I'll continue with the article. So what the article is saying is that we know, thanks to these documents, that Fallout is in the works. Apparently, this particular journalist has confirmed himself through whomever his source is. He's confirmed that these casting call documents are legitimate. Now, I want to say that Kotaku is it's a reputable, to some extent anyways, a reputable gaming website, kind of on par to IGN. But the problem with that is that he's just saying a Kotaku reader has sent me in this. Now, obviously, as a journalist, you don't name your sources. You don't want to compromise your potential sources for further news in the future. So he's obviously not going to reveal any names here. But doesn't it seem a bit odd that, someone just happens to, give these documents into this guy's laps, and it happens to refer to the same setting as did in the previous Survivor website, as did in these previous scouting rumors. So whether we can actually trust him in saying, he's confirmed the legitimacy of these particular documents, kind of 50-50 on it, particularly because all of these hoaxes that we've had, and I'm keep mentioning it, but I'm really upset about all of that. But the fact is that a lot of major websites are reporting on this, like IGN, for example. The fact that major websites like that are kind of reporting on this news article, it seems to suggest to me that they're putting a lot of trust and faith in Kotaku itself, which suggests as well, by implication, that Kotaku is a reputable site. And just as a journalist generally, when you're, getting sources of news from your particular sources, you're obviously not going to reveal who your sources are, which makes sense in this particular article, but you have to confirm for yourself before you put out any news that particular news is legitimate and it's real, and your source is 100% reliable. Because if that wasn't the case, you would really risk your reputation as a gaming news website, you know what I mean? No journalist is just going to put fake news out there saying it to be real, because he's never going to be taken seriously as a journalist ever again. This is a career to them, this is a job to them, which is something in which we must take into account. And the fact is that when you read this article, his demeanor, it's so confident. So, thank you to these documents, we now know that Fallout 4 is 100% in development. He's so confident in that sense that it suggests to me that maybe he is telling the truth, because as a journalist, working for a company, he gets paid for this. He must know that if he doesn't produce news which is quality, which is reputable, and which is 100% legitimate, he's, really risking his job. He's putting himself at a lot of strife there. So maybe, in that sense, that kind of implies that this news is legitimate on some sort of base. But the only reason why I'm 50-50 is just because all of the other hoaxes and concerns that I outlined above. So if we now take a big assumption that these scripts are legitimate, they are real, let's see what they would actually mean, for the setting, for the story of Fallout 4 itself. Now, the reason why they're saying that first script, which I read in the pre-roll video you saw at the start, the reason why they're saying that this is clearly referring to Fallout, because it's not line by line similar to what happened in Fallout 3, but it's that similar nature. If you remember that opening cinematic to Fallout 3, where Ron Perlman, the voice actor, he was like, war never changes. It's the classic introduction that they use in Fallout 3. It's also the classic one that they use in Fallout 1 and 2 as well. Now, the first thing to note is that there is no narrator here for this particular script. It's not like, the past Fallout games where you had Ron Perlman reading out this opening cinematic. It's actually suggesting that the player itself, him or herself, whether it's you or me or anyone that picks up the controller, it's the player himself or herself that's actually reading the monologue this time around. So what that suggests to me is that, unlike Fallout 3 in New Vegas, when you engage in conversation with NPCs and you just select from lines of dialogue, the player itself doesn't actually read out the dialogue. It just kind of, translates that to the NPC and they respond with whatever text. But what it suggests this time around is that the protagonist is not silent. It's not a Link or anything like that. It's actually someone that speaks, physically speaks to NPCs. Now this, I don't know how I kind of feel about this. I like the idea of having a silent character, because you could kind of, translate to that protagonist a little bit more. You could, I don't know, it's hard to explain, because it doesn't seem like it's me playing the game if the character has its own unique voice. Like, if I was playing the game and it had some random voice actor doing all of these lines of dialogue, it won't seem like it's me, like I'm the Lone Wanderer, like I'm the courier. It seems like more so when there is no voice given out by the protagonist, that I kind of associate myself with that character a little bit more. But that's just my little concern. I'm sure many other people won't really care about that, but I thought I'd just outline that anyways. So if you go on to the next script, which I'm not going to read for you because it's not too flashy or anything like that, but what it pretty much describes is a mission which is set in the Institute, obviously in Boston or MIT. Now, there is this character called Preston Garvey, and what it's explaining is one where Garvey tells you as the player to salvage a fusion core from a museum in the Commonwealth. So this suggests, numerous things, that again, the Commonwealth is going to be involved, the Institute is going to be involved. Maybe we're going to have a story revolving androids in some way. That is what this is seeming to suggest. But there's one thing that we should mention before we end this video, and the article itself actually picks up on this. These are just casting call documents. They're not actually the plot itself. All they are is just getting voice actors in to read some line of script, which is probably not going to be what Fallout 4 is about. It's just probably a story that they invented just to set the scene for the voice actor and this, to read the lines of dialogue. That's all it probably is. And, the likely chances are is that these texts, this setting, this plot, or whatever it's trying to refer to, is going to change during development numerous times. And this is not going to be the final product that we see. That's if these documents are legitimate. If they were legitimate, we could assume that these were just referring to the casting themselves. They're not actually going to revolve the very script of Fallout 4 itself. It may very well do so, but probably not so directly, because when voice actors are brought in, into the studio to read out their lines of dialogue, they read thousands and thousands of lines which aren't all relating to the final product. They're not going to use every single line, every single piece of audio that they obtain from these voice actors and chuck it in the game. Usually what they'll do is they'll have them read thousands of lines, each with different options, which they can then, pick and choose which ones they want to implement into the game. So I remember seeing this vlog about Eric Todd Dellums when he was talking about his job as 3Dog. He would read thousands of lines, but you're not going to see all of those lines in the game. Some of them have been taken out, some of them, have never seen the light of day. And that's because after the voice actors leave, there's still months and months and months to go before the game is actually finished its development. So things can change from then. There are so many lines of dialogue that the developers can choose from. So who's to say that one line of dialogue, like the ones that you see now, are actually going to be in the finished product? And also bearing in mind that these are just casting call documents. So my smart money is that if these are legitimate, this is probably not going to be the lines of text that we would actually see in the Fallout game itself. And furthermore, maybe that this, Institute and Commonwealth and Boston setting, it was just completely made up for the casting call. And they didn't want to give anything away with regards to the real story, which could be set somewhere completely different. But anyways, guys, that's my thought on the issue. A bit of a lengthy video, but there was a bit to get through. I'm trying not to get too excited about this. I guess you can tell that from, the demeanor of my voice, but put your thoughts in the comments below, and what do you think about this? Do you think it's legitimate? And if you do, what do you think about the scripts themselves? Do you like having a Boston or Commonwealth or Android, plot and setting involved into Fallout 4? I know many people that weren't happy about that. Many people didn't want to have, interaction with the Commonwealth and the Institute and the androids. They were very, very against it for some certain reason, but other people embraced it. So I want to know what you think about, all of this news that's been coming out. But until next time, guys, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourself.